Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited to be speaking to Dr. Hailey Steinhauser. Now, she said to me I could speak to her and call her Hailey, but I don't know if I'm going to keep referring to her as Doctor. She's a chiropractor and a wellness coach. For years, she's helped family members, friends, patients, and clients get their health back on track and make the connection between the mind and how it affects the physical body, which is really, really important. Powering up the nervous system, breaking old patterns, which I can't wait to speak about that, and keeping your survival mode and focusing on living in the present moment and all key parts of how she lives her own life and how she guides transformation in her patients' and clients' lives. So, having said that, welcome, Dr. Hailey Steinhauser.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I love interview styles where we can just chat and like go on and on about different topics, and it's just so interesting to me to be able to kind of spread the word about mind-body connection. So excited that you're interested in that because it makes such a huge difference. Like you said, like it's amazing. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, no, you're welcome. And the thing is, too, like I said, I've always talked about it doesn't matter how you fix your body. If your mind is not at the right place and your soul, your heart, your spirit, whatever you believe in, is not aligned either, it ain't going to work. Because the thing is, you could say I'm going to eat sprouts, I'm going to eat silver beet, but if you've got negative mindset and
Yeah.
talking yourself down, it doesn't matter. The body listens to what the mind says. So yeah, so having said that, so tell us a little bit how you became a doctor, how you became interested in all of this, how you dived right into it.
Yeah, and I really did. I was exposed actually to chiropractic from the start. I have been a chiropractic patient since I was 6 years old. We went as a family. Um, and then, so it's just a part of our lifestyle. And it wasn't chiropractic specifically for pain, which I know sometimes people think of chiropractic, they think, oh, back pain, neck pain, headache, that sort of thing, which it's fantastic for. But we actually went more for wellness. So for preventing injuries, preventing sickness, preventing things like that, just to make it so your body's working as it should. So that was my childhood. And then once I was getting older and starting to go, what do I want to do with my life? I went through a couple different like ideas and stuff. And then I was like, wait, I mean, I love chiropractic. I've been exposed to it my whole life. It's really cool how helpful it is to me. And I kind of started getting into the idea of doing that for my own career, and then really just dove right in. It was that, and it was never going back. So and then it was once I was in chiropractic school that I started learning and knowing more about the mind body connection, and how like it's not just you don't just get sick because you eat bad food, or because you got a virus from somebody else, or because you don't get injured just because you fell or had an injury or you're into sports or something like that. There's also the stress component. If you are under chronic stress, or have had certain things happen in your life that have built automatic patterns that are keeping you in survival mode, it's literally making your body not able to work like it should, heal like it should.
Mm.
So going into that mind body component of it, healing different stress patterns, changing certain aspects of your life, building healthy habits, like all of those things play into holistic health. So then after I got out of school and started practicing chiropractic, I incorporated those ideas into the work that I was doing with patients, and through that found that it was really helpful for a lot of people, because I find that a lot of people
Mm.
feel like they're doing all the right things. They are trying to eat right, they're trying to move, they're trying to do this, that, and either have a hard time sticking with it or just aren't seeing the results. So then that motivation is lost. And that's exactly what you're saying. Like if your mind isn't with it, if your like self-talk isn't there, like certain things are going to just make it so things don't line up. And then that's where I
Mm.
started doing the wellness coaching as well, to make it so we can find that missing piece for you, because that's going to be different for someone else. That's why diets don't work for everyone, right? Like one diet and
Correct.
one
Yeah.
exercise regimen is going to be
Mm.
perfect for somebody, and then somebody else is going to try and be like, why isn't this working for me? But it's because there's just more than one piece in the puzzle. So just
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I like the way you say that, because you've gone and learnt all about chiropractors, and I'm one to go to a chiropractor, and things like that. But I like how you incorporate the wellness coaching in it, because, the thing is, everyone believes it's only, it's doctor says this and that's it. So I have to do this, I have to eat that, and I have to find this. And it's like, no, 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 no. You got to connect with yourself
Right.
first and foremost. A lot of people go, oh, I go to a chiropractor and I don't feel good when I come out of it. It's your body telling you, hang on a minute, maybe there's something that they're doing doesn't suit your body. Let them know, things like that.
Right.
Instead, they get a crack here and a crack there. They go home and they feel worse, or bruised. And I get it, because as I say, sometimes I go and go, why have I bruised now? And then I remember the machine that was used. But, and that's normal. But it's true what you say, because if you're holding so much pain, or
Yeah.
trauma or anything like that, it doesn't help. So, so where does the wellness come in? So you're not, when I say you're not just a chiropractor, obviously you're well informed, you're well educated, you've done everything, to become a chiropractor. But how did you come across bringing in the wellness? Because, like I said, a lot of people are a chiropractor, whether it's a CrossFit chiropractor or a normal chiropractor for this sort of thing, but it's wellness is what I liked about it too.
Yeah. Well, I think that was just partially to do with my introduction to chiropractic as well. It was much more of a wellness base. It wasn't just sports chiropractic or something like that.
Mm.
And then also, like, the turning point was actually being introduced to a technique called neuro-emotional technique while I was in school. It was a technique built by a chiropractor, I think back in the 80s, and it is awesome for breaking these automatic patterns that, and we can get into that a little bit more, but
Mm.
your nervous system and your brain creates automatic patterns in response to stress. So if something happens in your life, and you don't necessarily have the tools to deal with it, or you don't have the time or understand what's going on, what happens is your body responds physiologically. Like, your heart rate might increase,
Mm.
you might clench up, you might have tension in your shoulders, and then you also respond emotionally too, which is a chemical response. So then your body is going to remember, what did you do physiologically? What was that chemical response? And the part of the brain where all of this is happening doesn't necessarily care about logic, whether or not it was like a good response and you're thriving and that's a really healthy response. It just cares
Mm.
about, did I survive? And if you
Yeah.
survive, then it's going to be like, okay, great. Well, let's be efficient next time and do that again. So then you
Mm.
have this stored response in your brain that may not be healthy in the future. It helped you then, right? Like, it got you through. Maybe it was appropriate at that time, but it might be appropriate now, 5, 10, 20 years later. So
Mm.
the technique actually looks at how to break those automatic patterns stored in the limbic brain. And it's actually really interesting, because one of the research studies that they've done on this was actually with cancer survivors. I love the study because they actually had each of the survivors write out the narrative of their experience of getting diagnosed. So that one, like, specific experience of, like, hearing the news for the first time that this is happening and that their life is changing. And, and they did a functional MRI of the brain as they were being read back that story. And all sorts of abnormal activity and stress responses showed up in the MRI. And then they went through a series of the NET treatments, and then redid the MRI, and it came back with an almost completely normal response. The stress responses were dampened. There wasn't all that, like, abnormal activity lighting up. And it was just from, I think, don't quote me on it, but I think it was 10 sessions of this NET.
Mm.
And I just found it to be incredible, because it's like showing that you are actually changing your nervous system when you do mind body work. And I mean, that's just huge for me. So that was really the big kicker in, okay, well, when I see my patients, when I talk to people about health, it's not just going to be one thing, because it's never just one thing. Everything is related. So
Mm.
even if it is a sports injury, or even if you were in a car accident and it's like very clearly, oh, you got whiplash, there is probably a stress component to that as well, because you had that fear of being hit again next time you're in a car, or next time you're out on the court playing your sport again. There's some sort of like stress response because you had that injury. So even if it seems simple, usually there are layers, and it's really important to look at all those layers to see lasting results.
Yeah, and I agree with that because like you said, and it's true, if you had a trauma of some sort, the moment you hear the word or someone mentions it, you tend to already tense. Your body goes into like this, like a protection mode, and
Yeah,
you go into fight or flight. And some people live in fight or flight, and that's not good for the body. It's not
right.
good for anything, any part of the body. So, and of course, it's like, yeah, like you said, it's basically like reprogramming. What you're just trying to do is, you used to think like this, you used to react like this. Just try and think of it and react differently. So I like the fact that there was a study made on patients with cancer, because you know what we're trying to do is we're always trying to find better ways for people to use tools to go through their journey. And I
Yeah.
know for myself that, I mean, I don't suffer it now, which is great. And I did the work, I did the practice for it. But I had like almost 6 to 8 months of fear.
Yeah.
And I thought that would kill me before the cancer did, if it ever, God forbid, came back, and it hasn't, thank God. But I thought and it was the way, like you react, like you said, it's the way that you tense, it's the way I was breathing. I had
Hmm.
pains everywhere. And then it's like, in my case, so I can speak about me, it's like basically trying to jump up and down while you're really stiff, and I was making more injury to my body because I wasn't flowing, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I think it's really important, like you said. So, if you just mentioned, what was it called? Was it NET? Was it again? Or,
NET. Yeah, it's
yep.
neuro emotional technique. So I
Okay.
know like a lot of chiropractors can get trained in it, and even like psychologists, I believe. So it's I don't know how common it would be over in Australia, but I know in the
Hmm.
US there's quite a few certified practitioners there. But it's an amazing technique, and that just opened the door for mind body work for me.
Yeah, and I guess also too, you probably have a patient who walks in and they're like, "Oh, my back's out. Why is it hurting me?" and things like that. And then what you're doing is you're realizing that there's an underlying issue.
Mhm.
So let's speak about these patterns. I call it the monkey mind or the gremlin mind and things like that. So just let's touch on that. What are some of the patterns that people tend to hold? And what are the causes?
Honestly, that answer could be like literally everything in the world. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but let's see if I can think of some specific examples. The car crash example is a good one that I think a
Mhm.
lot of people can kind of see. But for example, somebody might come see a chiropractor because they're like, "Oh, my neck hurts. I was in a car accident. A plus B equals C, right? So I have pain because this happened, and now I want to take care of the pain." And so, but this person maybe, I mean, they might not even be responding to the chiropractic adjustments as quickly as maybe I would expect. Maybe the
Mm.
results are just a little bit slower. Or maybe they are literally experiencing tangible fear or some sort of emotional response when they have to get in the car to drive to their appointments or drive to work. And then they find themselves like just kind of having trouble stepping forward and healing. So that is a pretty clear, like, okay, something traumatic happened and it's holding them in a state of pain and a state of fear. So then we just need to resolve the patterns that are creating that loop, right? Because there
Mm.
it makes sense to have pain and fear in the moment where the car accident is happening. But it doesn't necessarily make logical sense to continue having fear when you get in a car
Mm.
a month later, right? So because it's not like the car accidents are very common, maybe it was a one-off sort of situation. Logically, you can know that, but the pattern isn't in your logic brain. So you're finding that that is still happening and you're still experiencing these charged emotions when the charge doesn't make sense. And then so that's when we want to resolve that. But honestly, in the work that I've done with clients and patients, it is across the board. Like sometimes it can be stemming, the starting point might be from pain. Sorry for stuttering there. But so someone might be literally holding pain in their body. Think like fibromyalgia, think just like you were talking about when you were sick, like you had pain everywhere in your body, you were tense everywhere. So that is a truly physical manifestation of stress being held in the body. And that might be from an automatic pattern related to something big, like a diagnosis of cancer and the journey of healing and all of that that's associated. Or it might be from being bullied as a kid, or always feeling like you were second best to your sister or your brother or something like that. It can be something that's very, very big and traumatic. And it might be something that when you look at it logically now, you're just like, well, I know it doesn't matter that I never won in sports or something like that. But when you were a kid, maybe it mattered a lot. So then you started having this pattern in your body where you tensed up because you always felt like you weren't going to be good enough or something like that. You know, it can be anything. And yeah, so that answer could go on and on, but but the manifestation, I'm sorry to cut you off there, but
no, go.
Like the manifestation isn't always just pain, right? So in these examples, and especially when I'm doing this with chiropractic patients, sometimes it is pain. Pain is what's bringing them in. Pain is what's making them see there's an issue going on. But it could be anything, right? So the pattern could be something that's leading to you feeling like you don't have a lot of self-confidence. And even though you're saying your affirmations and trying to make changes here, you still feel like you're really struggling. That might be that you are really struggle sticking with a diet or healthy eating or being consistent at work. You know, it could be literally anything. Because the patterns are your nervous system, and your nervous system controls everything.
Yeah, and it's true because, like you said, because the thing is, you know, it all comes down to, you know, it's not just like, you say, you know, like our mentor always, our mentor, and I say, Tony Robbins always says, you can't just go, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. Of course, there's weeds. So you know what I mean? In the sense, you know, don't just saying the word doesn't change things. You got to change your psychological. You got to change your state. You got to change the way you think, the way you speak to yourself. But you know, going back to that, like, you know, obviously you've got a client that's come in, they've got some sort of trauma. How do you sort of approach that and say, you know, get them to open up about that trauma? Because some people might think, you're just my chiropractor, I'm not going to tell you, you're not my shrink, you know, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or it's so traumatizing that they're thinking, you're, you know, I need to be speaking to a doctor, whichever, you know, and I don't mean to do that in a bad way, but there's so many doctors out there, but people think that they have to speak to just one specific person about it. And of course, depending on the trauma, you might want to speak to a counselor or a psychologist and things like that. But for yourself to come in, how do you approach that? How do you, because you probably sense it. You probably want someone who senses and goes, oh yeah, there, I could dig a little bit deeper here. But how do you get them to open up? Because the reason I'm saying it is I'm just looking at like, you know, clients, customers, people, you know, who are going through cancer and they want to open up and they want to fix themselves, but they're afraid, you know, they're like, oh, so how do I, you know, how do they approach this? How would you approach this?
It's all about just talking about it at first. So like if somebody came in to see me as a chiropractic patient, but I could kind of tell, okay, maybe they would benefit from doing some of the more mind-body work, then I just started talking about it, mentioning, oh, you know, like I see this in a lot of people, and sometimes it can have to do with these other things that actually don't really have to do with how you're moving and like the more physical side of healing. And then just kind of basing it on their response. I mean, some people aren't ready, and it's, in my opinion, not a good idea to force somebody to do a type of healing, even if it would be good for them, if they're not ready. So it starts with conversations. It starts with maybe seeing like, okay, well, like we can do this technique. Do you want to try it out? And then with this technique specifically, people can be very open they can share what it is that's popping up, what it is that they're experiencing, and the trauma that is kind of showing up as the start of this pattern that we're trying to resolve. But they also don't need to. The way that it works is we use muscle testing, and there's a series of steps that kind of take us in the right direction. So they can also, you can do the muscle testing with them just thinking about it, which I think is very nice, because some people just aren't ready to share, whether it's because they just don't know yet what kind of relationship they have with me, or maybe they just don't like sharing. Maybe they're not ready. Maybe that's going to be in a month or 2 months down the line of their healing process, and they're like, okay, I can say this out loud now, but I couldn't say it out loud before. I think that that's a really important part of my role in knowing like what to suggest and when to suggest and how to suggest it. And obviously there needs to be rapport between us, so there's that level of comfort. If you're working with somebody doing mind body work, you have to trust them. You have to know, okay, like this is, I'm in a healing space, I'm in a safe space to actually process things that I couldn't process before because I wasn't in a safe space. So those things are really big. It's interesting too, because with my chiropractic patients, some of them would come in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, this person probably would not be into the mind body work. But I talk about it anyways, just because, I mean, you're talking the whole time that they're there and all that. And then they end up being open to trying it. And then they're always surprised by how it works and the results that they're seeing. So I think it's a very personal journey, and it's just a little bit different for everyone. And it always starts with just having that door open, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, so why, let me ask the question, because we talk about the mind body work, but why do you believe it's so important for your health? Because a lot of people, like I said, they think, oh, I'm just going to go to my chiropractor and I'm fine. So, nothing to it, I'm just going to get this done and I'm all good. But why is it important for your health? Why? Because I really want to stress this point out to our listeners and to our viewers, because I know how important it is, and I can say it until the cows come home, but I want it from a professional point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because then it's just going to help make it so you can get deeper changes in your health and more lasting changes in your health. Because if you make a change, like even with chiropractic, like I am a chiropractor, I love chiropractic, and I believe in the power of the adjustment. In that, I'll actually give a little caveat here, because I'm sure some of your listeners maybe aren't familiar with chiropractic, but what the adjustment is doing is it's not just making a crack in your spine and making noise and like making you feel a little bit better leaving the office. But what it's actually doing is it's changing the way your nervous system is processing things. So it's activating different receptors in those joints so that your brain and your body can communicate more accurately with each other. Because if something is off in your spine is protecting your spinal cord and all of the nerves going up and down your like basically from your organs, everything up into your brain and back. If that message is even just a little bit off, if it's just not fully accurate on, for example, where you are in space, then maybe you might turn the corner a little bit too soon and you hit your shoulder on the door, because your brain's not getting that accurate picture of this is where my body is. And then so the adjustment is going to make it so it's basically resetting those can have that better picture, and therefore send better instructions back down, right? So you got to have the proper information coming in if you want to make it so your brain can do everything that it's supposed to do. But in any case, that is what the adjustment is doing, and it helps with pain, it helps with everything, right? Because it's your nervous system, it does everything. But the cause of what is making that spot not communicate well with your brain varies. It might be because you have horrible posture when you're sitting and working from home. So doing things like getting adjusted, or even other healthy habits like exercising, eating well, all of those things are very important, because it helps give your body the tools that it needs basically to heal and to respond to stress and all of that. But the mind body work is crucial in making it so you can basically either bring your body back up to a baseline, right? If you've been kind of working in that survival mode for a really long time, or if you are actually one of the lucky ones and you're relatively healthy and maybe you haven't been put in a situation where you're caught in survival mode, then it can help you actually start getting to that thriving point even more easily, because it'll make it so you can be aligned in each of your cells with what it is that you're working on and what it is that you're doing. Because you can take this from so many different examples, but let's say it's more of a gym example, right? You're going to be working out, you want to get healthy, you want to be fit, and your friend has this awesome exercise routine that works perfectly for them, and for you it might not work if you are talking really negatively about yourself or thinking really negatively about yourself, or if you're thinking, well, their body type is completely different than mine, there's no way this can work, or there's no way that I deserve to be healthy. Like, there can be all of these different angles of something where your mind is not aligned with what it is that you're doing. So it's just going to make it harder, right? It's not going to make it impossible necessarily, but it'll certainly make it harder. And the same thing with anything else, like even if it is healing from pain or healing from sickness, if you are doing certain things that will help, right? Like, you know that eating this diet is going to help, you know that getting adjusted is going to help, or like anything, right? Like, you're putting the pieces together. There's going to be a missing piece if you're not aligned in your mind and your body. And I don't necessarily, I think that could be interpreted as me saying like, oh, well, you need to be aligned in your mind and body by just believing that you're doing the right thing. But it can be even deeper than that. Like, a lot of this is in your subconscious. Like, you don't necessarily, you're not doing this on purpose, right? Like, these patterns that are there, or even the negative self-talk that's there, or the kind of spiraling down into a pit, right? Like, those things you don't do on purpose. Logically, everybody knows that they will be better off if they're not doing all of these things. But they happen anyways, because it's in your subconscious, it's in your fight or flight part of your nervous system. And the mind body work is what helps you step out of that survival mode and get into an area where you can be in the parts of your brain that are thinking logically and can see the bigger picture, and can make it so you are moving forward and you're getting healthier and you're thriving.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's great how you say that, because like we always say, that it's not that you wake up in the morning and go, oh, okay, I'm going to give myself hell today, like
Right.
you said,
Nobody does
it's
that.
correct. So it's not that you go, oh, what am I going to do today? I'm going to give myself a really tough time today. So
Right.
it's like you said, it's it's in the back of your mind. It's unconscious, but it's there, it's, and you sort of, all it takes, people don't realize all it takes is something that you smelt, something that you heard, something that you tasted, something that you saw to trigger something. So what, like you said, the body then reacts at the same time. It's that fight or flight, because the body goes into, okay, I need to, I need to shut down everyone, and I need to protect what's more important, and everything else just starts tensing. But and speaking of tense, I'm going to go on to the next thing, because speaking of tense is a lot of people want stress. When they're stressed, they're tense, they're holding on, and I know I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, me, I never get stressed. So I can't wait to hear about, some ways that, what is the number one way that you can handle stress? Because I think this is what I'm going to take on, because there are times when I'm not a perfectionist, but I'm like, when I make something or when I do something, I get really stressed if I don't do it as good as I want it to be. So, or I get stressed the moment I get the phone call that says, hey, Grace, you're due for your yearly checkup. And I just go into, people call it anxiety, and I think, why are we naming it? But I go into stress. So what is the number one? How is it to handle number one stress?
Yeah. Handling stress is just different ways to tap into that subconscious part of your nervous system, because stress in and of itself is not a bad thing. We have a stress response for a reason. It means that we can handle a fight or like a life or death situation, right? We need to be able to handle certain things that happen. But the problem is that our lifestyle in general has too much stress. And then obviously, sometimes people's lives have just way too much stress and it becomes chronic. And then that's when you are holding it in your body and are responding in very extreme ways to smaller things, where like you might look at that and logically think in your brain, like, I shouldn't be responding this way. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's fine. It's fine. But you do anyways, because that's just where you are in, like, that's the state that you're in. So that is held in what's called the autonomic part of your nervous system. So people talk about fight or flight, like that is your autonomics, and that's in your subconscious. So doing things that help you kind of dive into that area, if you can even start doing small things on a consistent basis, that over time is what's going to help change your stress response. So it's not necessarily that you have to think like, okay, well, I don't want to respond specifically in this situation, so I'm going to do all of my work to make it so I stop responding in this one way. But if you can kind of look at it more globally and help your body get to a lower level of stress, then your response will be more healthy. So honestly, like working one-on-one with somebody who does mind body work, like this is what I do with my coaching clients virtually, like that is huge, because that can help kind of fast track things. So if you're in a place where you can do that, 100% like reach out to me if you have questions about that. But another way that you can do it on your own, right? Because consistency is huge here. You want to be able to do something that it can become a part of your life. But there's different mindfulness exercises that you can do. I'm actually posting a series of mindfulness exercises in my Facebook group. If any of you guys want to join, just to get an idea of like, oh, okay, yeah, this is definitely something that I can fit into my routine and can connect with on a daily basis. And it might seem really small, like, but over time, that helps you be more present. And that is huge for lowering your stress response and staying out of fight or flight. And then also even things like meditation. I know meditation is something that's talked about a lot, but it's because it is actually really effective in tapping into your subconscious, tapping into your autonomic nervous system, and changing those kind of like heightened responses. So, and it depends on the person though. I'm not going to give a blanket statement of, oh, you just need to do this and that's going to be the number one thing for you and everybody else in the world to start having less stress in your life. So that's why it's nice when there's lots of options, right? So maybe it is meditation, even if it's sitting down for 3 minutes a day for a while and just trying to have a quiet mind or notice your thoughts more, or listen to a guided meditation. There's all sorts of ways that you could get started on that. But for some people, the thought of having to do that is stressful, right? So maybe that's not a good first step.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
That's
more
right.
about like sitting down and breathing while you eat, focusing on belly breathing while you're doing an activity that you're already doing, like kind of incorporating something where you can be more mindful, or where you can focus on your breath, because breath is huge in your autonomics, or meditating. Like those are kind of my go-tos, but it's got to be what aligns with you, because even if it's something that is good for you, if it actually is something that in your current state stresses you out, then that's not what we should do first.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also making it something that you can do consistently. So it doesn't have to be something that takes a huge chunk out of your day from the start. If you're that person who just has trouble with consistency, maybe it's something really small that you anchor with something that you do every day. So while you make your pot of coffee, you're doing your mindfulness exercise, or while you're brushing your teeth, you're breathing and you're working on your belly breathing. Those sorts of things seem very small, but done consistently make a huge difference and are far reaching, because then it starts out as having nothing to do with you not wanting to have that deep stress when you get a call for your annual exam, but it does over time even impact that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really important, like you say, because I also believe that you got to move the body in a good way. I'm not talking about exercising here, but I believe that myself personally, I believe that the body holds energies as well. So, and what I mean by that is some people have things boiling up and they suppress it, and then before you know it, your shoulders are forward, your head's down, you're bent, and you're shallow breathing, things like that. And then before you know it, it's causing other issues. And, the body is one. So if you're doing that, what's it doing to your posture? Like we said, what's it doing to your lower back? What's it doing to your neck? What's it doing to
Mm-hmm.
your hips and so forth, your shoulders?
Right.
I tend to hold a lot of, I tend to raise my
Horizontal.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a
Yeah.
lot of that and I sleep like that. And then I'm like, I'm in so much pain. But I like the way you said it, because I'm going to go and, I was going to say when I go home. But yeah, when I go home, I'm going to have a look at, what's causing me to want to protect myself, because
Yeah.
that's the position I feel is like a protective position. So what am
Mm-hmm.
I trying to protect? What am I not letting go of or dealing with? And I quite like the way you said, mindfulness and meditation and things like that, because it
Yeah.
is really, really important. But what about, having the opposite? What about, what are some things that help people find more energy in their bodies? Not just a matter of, healing some things, but finding to have more energy throughout the day. What are
Yeah.
some things they can
Um,
do?
I love that question.
Yeah.
There's again so much, and it honestly is very intertwined. So first, actually, before I answer that question, I want to just comment on the posture thing that you just said, because
Mm,
it makes complete sense. Posture, sometimes people have poor posture for purely biomechanical reasons because their desk is not right and they're looking down at a computer or looking down at their phone. But oftentimes, either in conjunction with that or actually just off by itself, it is stress.
mm,
Flexion is bad posture, right? Your head coming forward, your shoulders coming up and forward, that knees bending up, that fetal position, like that is
mm-hmm,
what you call flexion, which is a fight or flight response. Think about like a baby.
mm,
So you start out really curled up and protected, and then you open up and you see the world, right? And
mm,
this open posture is where all your bodily functions are going to be working better. You can breathe better. Your heart can pump better. Like everything is more like positioned to
mm,
function in like the optimal way. But it is a stress response. So that's why people's shoulders get really tense. That's why people have poor posture and feel stuck. That's why when you're trying to comfort yourself or go to sleep at night, you find that you're curling up like that. And you're totally right. It's you're protecting yourself in some way, or you're stuck in that stress response that maybe
mm,
you're just not really sure where it is. But a
mm,
great mindfulness exercise that you could do, like you were talking about, okay, like what am I protecting myself from? That can be a difficult like question to ponder. So you can start with it in baby steps. Like even if you were to go and lay by yourself and see like, okay, well, what happens if I roll my shoulders back and I'm open? Like, what do I feel? Is
mm,
it really uncomfortable? Am I getting a pain somewhere? Am I feeling vulnerable in some area? Or like what good or bad feeling is showing up in my body? And then just noticing it. Like that is actually a mindfulness exercise. Just
mm,
noticing it. And maybe over time, your body will speak to you even more. And then you'll see, like, oh, this is what I'm protecting myself from, or this makes complete sense. And then that can help you get to a place where you can maybe have more like awareness on how to heal that particular thing. But
mm,
but yeah, that and helping yourself get out of fight or flight and working on your stress responses will actually improve your posture as well, which will then improve your breathing, which will then improve getting out of fight or flight. So it's kind of like a positive once you take that first step. So the first step might be breath work, but maybe the
mm,
breathing is too difficult because your posture is so
mhm,
horrible. So then maybe it's
mhm.
actually some exercise. Maybe it's doing something to get your shoulders back, right? So it can be
Yeah.
different for everyone. But anyways, I digress. I just was so excited about that. Now I need to
Yeah.
remember what it was that you asked me.
So I just asked, what are some,
Sorry.
to have more, what are some things
Oh,
that people
energy.
can have energy? Yeah,
Yes.
have more energy. So what are some things they can do to help them with that?
Yeah. So when it comes to having more energy, I mean, I don't usually have my go-tos be like, oh, make sure you're eating good food or get out and exercise. Because, people know those things. Usually they've tried them and they're still not having energy. So what I find is most useful is to, one, you should start with, okay, what is it that I need to do to get my body to baseline? So maybe it is integrating some breath work, and maybe it is noticing that, oh, like when I'm around this person or in this situation, I am stressed and I don't respond well. So maybe it's trying to see like what you can do to put yourself in situations that are not as energy draining, right? So it's kind of staying away from certain things at first or resolving certain things. I actually did a whole like challenge, like a 5-day challenge with a group based on that. And we went through exercises every day, kind of seeing like, okay, what is it? Why is it that you're not feeling energetic? Oh, it's because all day long you're thinking about your endless to-do list, and you're thinking about this conversation that never really got finished, and you're thinking about, da 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 da, all this stuff that's just kind of draining you. So if you can stop the leaks, then that's going to help you out. But then with getting more energy, that I think a huge thing is tapping into what fuels you. So kind of ignoring the basics, like of like actually making sure you're nutritionally fueled and things like that. Sometimes the missing piece is, okay, what is missing in my life, or what can I do extra in my life to make it help me connect to, oh, yes, I am worthy of being happy. I am excited for the day. I am like love my job or love my family, just something to help you connect to that feeling. Because sometimes even if those things are true, it's just hard to connect to it. So like I just had one of my clients, she just started incorporating just 10 minutes of drawing in the morning because she's very artistic, but hasn't touched into that for a very long time. So when we started working together, it was all of these like, oh, maybe like I crash every single day at like 4 in the afternoon and then I can't come back from it. So thinking about all of these other different possible reasons for it. And then now we're really seeing huge changes because she's actually like, we did the base work of getting it to a point where, okay, it's possible in her morning routine to get up and have time to do something like that. And then now she's like, this is fantastic. And I'm like beating myself. And all these things that normally would have set me off or normally would have made me crash before, like just don't seem to have as big of an effect anymore. So for her, it was tapping into creativity. For somebody else, it might be tapping into like dance, right? So I told another one of my clients is like, you are doing, because she does everything, right? She works out, she has her like journaling time, she is trying to process all sorts of things, but she's still just kind of struggling. So I was like, add some fun in there, something where you're like reaching out, like some extension, get your shoulders back and be all silly, like dance in a way that you'd never want anyone to see you dancing.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, but something that connects to you. So those things might not be it at all for somebody else. Maybe it's more like a walk completely by yourself out in the woods, but it's something that will feed you. But when you go to do it, maybe initially every cell in your body is like, no, that sounds like a lot of work. That's a waste of time. Like I can't do that, and then it's figuring out how you can kind of stop listening to that. I think you called it like monkey mind, right? Like that like trying to hold you back and see like, okay, well, what if I just went anyways and did it, like took a walk for 5 minutes or went and looked at the sunset, because it doesn't matter if I finish this task right now, I'm going to go look at the sunset for a couple minutes and then I'm going to come back and get back to whatever it is I'm doing. So those little things where you teach yourself to allow yourself to find joy again, that is huge for having energy.
Yeah, I like that last bit, where you find joy, because I think it's really, really important. And I like the way you touched on that because, some of these people who are obviously going through like, their cancer treatment, they don't actually have the physical energy to go and probably they've just had a chemo session and they do, they don't have that energy to move their body so much. But like you said, they can draw, they can journal, they can sing, they can see the sunrise, they can see the sunset, because it's anything that makes you feel good. So I'm really liking the way that you keep referring back to that, because like I said, it's not just about the body. We know the body is the biggest well, when I say the biggest organ, but you know what I mean. The body's everything.
Right.
But it's incorporating the soul. It's incorporating the mind. It's really, really important, because without it, then it's resonating with me. Let me just say that, because when I'm doing what I love to do, I am in flow. I am so in flow. And when I'm not doing what I want to do, I'm trying to get it in a hurry, and I'm,
Yeah.
getting all worked up and everything. But you say that posture is actually, important for mental health as
Hmm.
well. Now, like you said before, there's a lot of countries that have been, are going through, will go through lockdown in, COVID. We're all going through it, but there are certain places. So a lot more people are sitting.
Yep.
They're not allowed out. We were one of the lockdown cities of the world. At one stage, it was only 3.9 miles or 5 kilometers. So really, people were saying, well, what am I going to do for 3.9 miles? I'm not going anywhere. So they would
Yeah.
sit. And I think that caused a reaction, and it snowballed from there. So why is it important to have a good posture for mental health?
Well, I mean, that comes back down to that fight or flight response. It's
Mm,
kind of a chicken or the egg question when it comes to this. Because
right.
sometimes, so if you're very stressed, then you end up with poor posture because, like you were saying, like your shoulders get high, you kind of shove your
Mm-hmm.
head forward, that sort of thing. But then also, inversely, if you have bad posture because you're stuck inside, you can't go anywhere, you're not going to the gym anymore, you're not normal routine, you're not even socializing or doing anything, then you end up just sitting there slouching at your computer or watching TV. And then over time, that is giving different signals to the brain. So when you're positioned like that, you are literally not going to have as many action potential, like firing from your spine up to your cerebellum and up over to all the other different parts of your brain. So there's getting to be less information. So you're not going to have the correct neurotransmitters and like
Mm,
basically like those building blocks that are supposed to make it so you are you. It's just not
mm,
working that way anymore. So that is why then the starting point can be poor posture, and then you end up having more stress responses. You end up feeling like it's more difficult to get out of these negative situations than maybe you did pre-pandemic or pre-poor posture. It's a circle, right? That's the negative circle. We talked about kind of the
mm.
positive circle before, and
Yeah.
this is the negative one. But the
Mhm.
beauty of that is that now there's two doors to go in to change it. For some people, it's going to
Nice.
be looking at the mind first, right? It's going to be looking at,
Mm,
okay, well, how can I tap into some mind body work or ways to change my mindset, ways to change my beliefs to start seeing some changes here, to start feeling better, to start feeling like I have the energy to sit up straight again, right? And then for some people, that is their best option. So it might actually be, okay, well, I'm going to do some posture exercises, ideally some brain-based posture exercises, and really activate that part of my nervous system and my skeleton to make it so I'm sending up different information to my brain and my nervous system. And then that is going to kind of catapult into me having a better mindset and shifts. So it's nice because you can go both ways because everyone's different. You're gonna align with different things, right? There's not a cookie cutter way to do things. Oh, I can't hear you. Sorry.
sorry about that. So
That's okay.
like you said, it's like, yeah, there is no one size fits all. Everyone's different, and I love the way also before how you said, your friend could have this amazing diet, this amazing way that she exercises. It's not for everyone. It's about finding what makes you, move forward in your life, what makes you, be better at it, because at the end of the day, you want to be around for a long time. You don't want to be around for a short time. You want to be around for a
Right.
long time.
And it'd be nice if
So
you enjoyed everything while you were there.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I always call it, like, things that happen in life, I always say that they happen for you, not to you. It's not my saying, but I say that a lot, and also it's part of a journey. It's part of the
Mm-hmm.
journey. If you knew where the destination was, it'd be boring. If you knew what was going to happen tomorrow, you'd be bored after a while. You know, if someone said, "Oh, you're going to have smooth sailing," it'll be boring. Someone says you're going to have a drastic every day. Oh, that could be overwhelming. So, this is what life is. So, why not find that, that part of your life, that part of your body that, aligns with everything? And, I'm trying to sit here with my back straight all the time, and things like that.
Yeah.
I could see myself like, oh, okay, oh,
Yeah.
Um, but one thing a lot, and I think this is where you can actually help me better understand it, is because chronic pain. A lot of people talk about chronic illness, chronic pain. Now, is it a word that's means one thing, or is it a word that's now, like I like to use the term, bastardized, where in the sense that everyone's just using, it's just an easy way out. It's chronic fatigue, it's chronic pain, it's things like that. So when we talk about chronic stress, with pain and diseases, what does that all mean?
Yeah, I would honestly say that, I mean, at least from what I hear, it sounds like the word is being used correctly. Because
Mm-hmm.
basically, there's the two categories. You have something that's acute, which would mean that it's short term. Maybe you twisted your ankle and it hurts for a couple days, which is normal
Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
injured those ligaments. And then it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to how it's supposed to be because you're moving and you're trying to let it heal. And
Yeah.
then you get shipped into chronic. And chronic is when something is happening for longer than it should, is basically what that means. So with chronic pain, it could be maybe pain from an injury is lasting longer than it should, or maybe you are just starting to experience pain that doesn't make sense and it's lasting longer than it should, which is kind of in
Mm.
and of itself. If you don't know where this is coming from, chronic stress would be, like I said before, stress is not a bad thing. But then it's supposed to go back to normal, right? Your body's supposed to stop
Mm.
having that stress response. So if it
Yeah.
is staying longer than normal, that's chronic. And the issue with that
Mm.
is that once something becomes chronic, your body is now going to try and figure out how to work with that. It's going to change its homeostasis. It's going to change the way it's the baseline changes once something becomes
Mhm.
chronic. And that's why mind body work is actually very, very important when dealing with anything chronic, because those changes are happening in your brain. Like, you can, even with chronic pain, you can be in a situation where maybe you finally figured out the work you need to be doing on your body to help relieve you of that pain. But your
Mm.
mind now has a pattern of pain. So it knows your back should hurt.
Mm.
So it's much more difficult to come out of chronic pain than acute pain. So that's
Mhm.
why it's just really, really helpful to look at it from a holistic perspective, because it
Yeah.
definitely doesn't mean that it's too difficult to handle or that you're not going to get the help that you need. It just means that your treatment and your care should be different than somebody
Mm.
who just has an acute injury.
Yeah.
So, and then the same with stress, right? Like, with, you just have
Mhm.
to look at it differently, because you have to know that with something chronic, that means that now you have to look at the patterns in your brain and change those, so you're not stuck in that chronic phase, even if symptomatically maybe you feel better for a couple days, but then you're
Yeah.
frustrated because it keeps coming back. So that's
Mm.
where the difference is.
Yeah, and it's important, like, for people to understand, because the thing, our mind can play the most horrific games. It could be our best friend, or it could be our worst enemy. And it's interesting, like you say that, because you may not, like, what I love when I speak to people that have done something to heal themselves, say of a migraine or something, and then they go, "Oh, I haven't had a migraine in 5 days." It's like, well, that's good, but it's like, but I should have one. And it's like, why? And
Yeah.
I think it's because the mind reminds them, by the way, remind you, you suffer severe
Right.
migraines.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's important to not only fix the body in a certain way, but to fix the mind to believe that you're healing. Because you could fix the body, but then the mind keeps going, nah, I can feel
Yeah.
that pain, you know?
That's a
Yeah.
hugely important point. I actually work with a lot of my, like, especially my chronic pain patients and clients. on that specifically, because
Mm,
they'll get to a point where their body might be ready to heal. And
mm,
logically, they've been ready to heal for a long time, right? Like they have
mhm,
been searching for somebody to help. They've been trying to do all this stuff. They're frustrated with the way that they feel or the stress that they're under, or the whatever it was that they're coming from. So they want to heal. They want to be healthy. But there might be
mm,
a part of their subconscious brain that doesn't, because for the longest time they have been unhealthy, and there is some comfort in
mm.
that, because that's a like coping response that the nervous system can
Yes.
have. So
Yes.
now, oh well, no, I'm the sick person, or no, I'm the person in pain.
Mm,
I'm the person who has to go to bed at 7 o'clock because it's just too
mm,
much, right? So
mm,
you start to identify with those things. So part of the healing journey is recognizing that there might be a part of you that's holding on to what you don't want anymore. So then doing the work to be like, okay, I'm ready. I don't want to be that person anymore. Like full, like all subconscious parts of me, let it go, please, because I want to
mm.
heal.
Yeah, yeah, and I, it's funny because that's something we all, myself and my husband, we learn about and things like that, and we call it like the old patterns, the old stories that people like to live in, because it's like you said, it's their identity. If I don't have this, who am I after this? And they're too
Right.
scared to let go of that, so they stay with that story of theirs, that, oh yes, this
Yeah.
happened to me, like you mentioned before, a car accident could have happened 25, 30 years ago, but no, because of that car accident, and it's quite interesting because I have a we have a beautiful neighbor, and he'll talk to us, and he has to throw in, before my chronic sickness before my chronic sickness, I was used to be da 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 da. But just before my chronic sickness, I was da 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 da. And I'm thinking, you look great. You're looking amazing in your life. There could be some issues, underlining issues. I don't know, but I'm thinking, get rid of the
Yeah.
story. Let's
Yeah.
move on. You
Yeah,
know,
that realization is huge for people too, because they don't realize that you're holding on to something like that. You don't mean to
correct.
hold yourself back,
No,
but
no.
having that aha moment is, I mean, it's huge, right? Because then that opens the door for, okay, well, now let's process this. What work do we need to do to like let this
Mm.
go?
Yeah, well, they're either going to get the aha moment, or they're going to get the, this is getting worse, and, this could end badly, in
Right.
the sense, well, it's, or no, that's the aha moment, but, or the, I'm getting nowhere here. This is getting me nowhere, things like that. You know what I mean? You're going to either do it where you're suffering even more, or you're going to turn your life around. And we're not here to tell people, like, get over yourself. But what we're trying to tell people and educate them, I believe, is to let them know that if there's something that's not working in your body, get it checked out. Get it
Yeah.
checked out. I just spoke to a lady who was going to a chiropractor. Believe it or not, just the lady I spoke to before, she went to a chiropractor because she had severe back pains. Now, she found out later, she was a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor, but she's just found out that it's cancer again, that's metastasized, and things like
Hmm.
that. But I guess, we're not saying that that's what it is. I'm not telling people that if you've got back pain, it's definitely cancer. But, just make sure that you do the right thing and you go and see someone like Dr. Hailey, because it's really, really important that, you work out, what's going on, because it's horrible. I know for myself, I have problems with my posture. So I go and see a chiropractor, because if not, I'm practically in tears. But
Hmm.
having said that, I love the fact that it's like, Grace, you need to look a little bit deeper, I think.
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm all about, looking in deeper, and I love the holistic approach, because that's what it's all about, is going in and like you said, finding out what's causing these issues. Lay down, look at where the pain is, look at where the discomfort is, what's causing it, what caused it, why are you still holding on to that,
Yeah.
and things like that. So Is there anything else you want to share with us? Because seriously, I'm blown away. I really am. I've taken on so much. I've got notes everywhere, all over scribbling paper. So when
Yeah.
I'm not on screen, I'm writing down notes. But yeah. So is there anything else you want to share with us?
I mean, I love talking about this stuff. So I do have a group on Facebook that if you guys want to
Mm.
join, please do. It's Healthy Habit Coach is what the name of it is. If you go to my profile, you'll see it there.
Hmm.
But that is where I can share all the mind body work stuff with you. I mean, I've done other podcasts and just trying to share as much information as I can because this work is
Hmm.
so important. And then if you are ready to kind of jump in and see, okay, well, what kind of mind body work do I need to do? I do virtual coaching, so it can be anywhere in the world. And I'd love to offer all of you guys listening a free session just to chat and see what is actually going on with you. See if I can help, and we can make a plan from there. Because I just believe in this work so much, and I think that if more and more people start to understand how integrated the mind and the body are, like we'll just be a
Mm.
healthier and happier world, which sounds
Version.
so cheesy,
Yes.
but it's so true.
Yeah. It is true. It is true, though, because if you look at what's out there, there is so many. I know that, COVID has overridden everything else, but, if we look at all the other issues that people are having, physically, psychologically, mentally, whatever, it's pretty, I think it's a lot more deeper.
Yeah,
And why not? Yeah, work the mind, work the body. I love it. I really do. And thank you for that. So I'll be putting all the links, down below so people can go and get that free call with you, because that'll be really great. I really highly recommend, my listeners and my viewers to really reach out, because you might not think it's, oh, this isn't going to help me, but I believe it will. It will help
yeah,
you. I always say, look at tools outside. I'm not talking about changing up your medical regime, what you're doing if you're
yeah,
going through a treatment. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about opening the doors. And while you're going through, a particular, whether it's radiation, whether it's chemo, whether it's just tablets, chemo tablets, whatever it may be, an operation, look at, expanding, how to heal yourself, how to heal your body. If there's certain things not, adjusting, your posture's not right, your mind's not right, please reach out to Dr. Hailey, because I know she's going to have some amazing tools for you. And I know that there are some things out there that people should learn about and connect with and understand more. I really do. Like you said, so the world becomes a better place and a nice, healthier
yeah.
world. So, but
Yeah, so
yeah,
is
is
there
there anything
anything
else
else?
you want to say before we go?
Yeah, I just want to leave you guys, all of you listening and viewing out there, with just some really good energy, and that wherever you are in your journey, whether you're listening to this and excited and you're seeing new doors open, or maybe you're listening to this and maybe it feels really far away and maybe you just still feel a little bit stuck, like you have everything inside you, even if it doesn't feel like it's there. So just knowing that the more little bits of information and the more connections that you make and people that you see might be able to reach out a hand and like give you a tool that you didn't realize you already had. Like just take whatever little baby step you have, because it's all inside of you for healing and for joy, and just doing
Mm.
anything you can to try and connect to that joy is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. I think people should reach out, definitely, connect on Facebook with the mindful exercise. I know you have also the free call for our listeners and our viewers,
Yep.
which is great. So please, guys, reach out. The more information you have, I always say that the more information you get, the better it is. You know, I believe that we do things to heal ourselves, and you've got to try what's out there. So try what's out there. Um, there's so many amazing people that will help you, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, whether it's psychologically. We all say that all the time, but please reach out to Dr. Hailey. Again, I really appreciate you. Thank you so, so much for being with us today. And I'm sure that I'll be jumping on and, sort of getting onto your website and have a look at these Healthy Habits Studio.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. I love learning as well and growing. So thank you again for being on my podcast, and to everyone else, thanks for listening. And like always, I wish you so much love and light.